And so this plant harnesses the power of the atom so that we have the energy to run everything from your favorite video game to yummy cotton candy machines. Let's learn more about nuclear energy, shall we? Lights.
Occam's laser.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Occam's Laser. Thanks for the clap. Sean is here.
Hello, everybody.
And I am also here. Dulta, that's me.
And we are without guest.
Sans guest today. Had a guest planned. He knows who he is. He left us in the lurch.
Yeah, and he'll never be invited back. But thankfully, we have some juicy topics.
Juicy / heavy, but we're going to give them a shot anyway.
Yeah.
So today we've got something a bit topical. We're going to talk about Europe. It's how it relates to the science research that we do in Europe and the EU and how that affects everything. Talk a bit about defense, and then maybe talk about like integration in Europe, maybe. But we'll get to that later on.
Yes.
We will start with, Sean, you had something that you wanted to...
Yeah, so a few hours ago, there was this story that landed in The Guardian. That was a crazy headline that said, "Exploding stars lead to humans walking on two legs. Radical study suggests."
Okay, so exploding stars, you're talking about supernovae, and somehow supernovae are making humans walk bipedally as opposed to okay, weird.
So the reason this came obviously just strikes as crazy is because being in astronomy, like, your claims have to be so marginal. I mean, unless you're bulletproof about something, it's always like perhaps might lead to, and then you wouldn't make any kind of reaching conclusions in a paper beyond the scope of your discipline, never mind going from physics into like geology and biology and
usually
climate.
Like you might say, the flux could be higher than this.
yeah. But that is pure speculation.
Yeah. You wouldn't turn around and say, and that caused the entire evolution of the tiger species, you know?
And the reviewer would probably tell you to take out anything that was like beyond the scope of your title, like of your paper. So if you set out to talk about, like the magnetic fields of low mass stars, and you had a sentence in your paper that wasn't about the magnetic fields of low mass stars,
They'd be like, this is irrelevant.
Yeah. So it's worth saying. So this paper, first of all, The Guardian probably shouldn't have ran with it anyway, but the basics of their argument was 7 million years ago, they claimed that there was a few million years of supernovae in the Milky Way, and that led to more cosmic rays arriving at Earth, which makes sense.
Yes.
Which led to a surge of lightning.
Right.
Prolonged amount of lightning. Now, that would be a large claim because, how do we know 100%. What the atmosphere is like? But that's not where it stops, right? So then the lightning causes wildfires through Africa.
Yeah, I can see that happening,
so then that causes the trees to burn down and leads to widespread grasslands.
Yes.
And with fewer trees around, apes learn to walk upright.
Okay, so I have like a couple of issues, and so first of all, I guess the first thing to say is that the supernovae that happen are like quite close to Earth, and I guess some of the work behind that is fairly well founded. Like there might have been a supernova that happened in the vicinity of Earth, like within 15 parsecs, so not outside our galaxy, well within it. And they would or could produce quite an abundance of cosmic rays that would rain down on the Earth's atmosphere. That's
over the course of millions of years. So it's not like there's lightning every day for years. Like they're just talking. Like, I mean, a rate of one a year would still be quite high.
A rate of one supernova per year
in the Milky Way. Like.
Yeah, in the Milky Way, that would be very high. So obviously putting that aside, I'm willing to give them the fact that there was some period in the past where it was like there was quite an increase in the rate of supernovae near Earth.
Yeah.
The next part, so the news article says that causes an increase in lightning. These cosmic rays. Cosmic rays are just really fast protons, essentially.
Yeah.
And in the paper, when I looked at the paper says we essentially don't have any evidence for cosmic rays causing an increase in lightning, but we're going to assume it does for now.
Because they say it ionizes the atmosphere. And so there's actually people using, not to use the L word, but LOFAR to study lightning showers. And they're like, we don't really understand how lightning really works at all. Like, so little is known about it.
Yeah, and it does give off radio, lightning does. So like it is useful to observe it in like low frequency radio. But in the paper itself, they basically say like, if it's proven that there's no link between cosmic rays and lightning production, essentially, then this conclusion is entirely false. And then they go on to conclude that it would make more wildfires, which makes sense. Like, one of the main drivers of wildfires, apart from humans, would be lightning. But then to say that things burning down causes humans to stand up.
Well, even that trees burning down doesn't cause more tree growth, but then leads to grasslands.
Yeah,
because forests often burn and like wildfires are natural.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, which is interesting, is so there's a astronomical claim about supernova. Then there's something about climate, about the lightning and how cosmic rays work. Then there's something about I don't know, like environmental biology stuff, and then onto biology about apes walking upright. Yeah. And this was published in the Journal of Geology.
Yeah, so I couldn't actually find what journal it's been publishing because it hasn't been published yet. It's it's accepted, I think.
So yeah, it was just that's just according to the news article. So I didn't. Again, the paper was on.
It's on archive, so
and it
looks
looks pretty
source.
amateurish.
Yeah, it's kind of. So some of the references are quite like decent references, like Nature Communications, stuff like that. But it just seems weird. So the Journal of Geology is
So it's not
nothing to do with astronomy.
Well, like,
astrophysics,
I guess what
biology.
I'm saying is it looks amateurish is because we're so used to just using anything in physics. You just use a LaTeX template and it looks really nice.
Oh yeah.
And this I don't think they did. It's like a Calibri kind of font.
That's probably because of the typeset for the journal, though, right? Because it's open source, they have to.
Yeah, but archive is probably as well. Just, but anyway, it's a crazy story, and journalists shouldn't just write about.
Yeah, science journalism in general is victim usually to kind of making extravagant claims about research in general. But this one in particular, like, it's such a far-reaching conclusion at the end. It's literally their last two paragraphs. They kind of say, if that was the case, and if this was the case, then maybe this would be the case, and probably then this might happen.
Yeah.
And then the article just ran with that and just said, this is probably what happened.
But why did they stop there? So they could have said that allowed people, like humans, to spread outside Africa, and that let society develop in Europe, and then that made people move to Ireland, and then Europe to develop, and then now we eat pizza because in Ireland because of the EU, and therefore cosmic, like they're just drawing.
And that's why Murphy is the most popular second name in Ireland.
Yeah. The last thing I will say on it is that the title of the paper is quite funny. It's From Cosmic Explosions to Terrestrial Wildfires ? Which is just like such a way of not wanting to claim it, but we're saying this.
Yeah, this might have happened, but it's tenuous.
So it's one of my favorite things to talk about, just because I used to see it all the time when I worked for a newspaper. But so Betteridge's law of headlines is if a headline ends in a question mark, the answer is usually no.
Yeah, it's like 95% of the time it's no.
Yeah, because otherwise it's not an interesting story. But I read it originally as like, I'm Ron Burgundy kind of way, like. Because just say it if that's what they're claiming, like
Yeah, like make it a statement.
But I'd love to just have a Twitter bot that finds articles that are shared on Twitter that end in a question mark headline and just reply no. Like it would be a better way to do it.
Why haven't you done that?
I will do it right now.
Okay, pause podcast.
So I'm surprised. Yeah, I don't know what it depends. Like, do you think there's some the journalists are the ones that have to vet these, or you think they think, look, here's a published paper, it's fair, like it's
no, I think
peer-reviewed
I think
science.
the journalists are in the clear in that. Like they're not the scientists.
Yeah.
They can't vet that. I mean, the most they could do is ask other scientists in the field what they think. Right.
Yeah, especially if it's peer reviewed already.
Yeah, I mean, if it's peer reviewed already, then it's probably okay. But
Yeah.
this, papers can get by referees in peer review.
They
and
sure can.
still be like fairly
And have errors and such.
that they may.
Oh, good old jokes. So anyway, that was something that caught the eye and was kind of annoying.
And that was fairly recent. Like we really were on the ball with that one.
Yeah, this is all just natural conversation.
Completely natural. Okay, people. I think
Time to get serious.
that's enough bullshitting.
Yeah. Yep. Europe is fucked. We're all gonna die. There's a war coming.
Guys, if you're not involved in European things, you're going to be left behind, right? Sean?
Yeah, our big non-EU base.
Sean voted 3 times in the European elections this year.
Yeah.
Because he's so devoted to an
Yeah.
integrated Europe.
Yeah, so the European elections were on in Ireland on Friday and the UK Thursday, and everywhere else kind of Sunday mostly. But there was 2 places on Saturday, I think. But it was funny that the results couldn't be like all countries held the results, didn't they, for Sunday night?
Yeah, I think the Netherlands were like super early or something, and they
Yeah.
might have been, the news I saw might have been exit polls, so yeah, they might have
Yeah.
held all the actual results until like Sunday, Monday.
And within
But it's like, we're recording now, we actually don't have all of the results of the Irish European elections.
yeah, they're so slow to count, and actually
They're
this
very
is
slow, yeah.
something that I remember when I was talking to someone from the US, and like the day after the repeal the eighth referendum,
Mm-hmm.
like so the voting finishes at like 10 p.m. say on Friday night.
Yeah.
That they're just like, so does voting like does the count start at 10:01? We're like, no, we'll just come back tomorrow and do it. And they're like, no, like in the US, like elections, as soon as it's over, people work through the night. And she's just like, it's such an Irish thing to be like, we'll just go back tomorrow.
Yeah, what's a day or two?
Yeah.
That is mental though. Imagine having to count through the night. I feel like that's also a very American thing to do.
yeah, work at all costs.
Yeah.
But within, we're definitely in a good echo chamber, or not a good echo chamber, but a strong echo chamber, because like everyone I know would have voted similarly.
Yeah.
And like scientists tend to be really pro Europe,
Yeah, I think definitely so.
but
And
there-
definitely like not even just pro Europe. So like obviously there's multiple parties that are pro Europe, and then like very few probably that are anti Europe. Especially in Ireland, there's none that are like blatantly anti EU. It's usually like independence.
yeah,
But they're also like, I find people in academia are usually vote even the same party, along the same party lines. So usually kind of like green leaning and
yeah,
social democrat leaning kind of.
yeah, and I suppose
It's definitely like center left at least,
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's a few reasons to that. One is that people don't appreciate, or like if you're not in science, you don't really get how integral it is to science to be able to freely travel between countries.
Yeah.
So if you were to get a visa every time you went to the
France.
UK or France or whatever, like scientists make these trips like 10 times a year if that's
Yeah.
where their collaborations are.
Yeah, like how many times have you been to the Netherlands in the last year or two?
Yeah, probably 10 or so. And if I had to do something
Yeah,
with that,
like trying to organize a visa every time.
Yeah.
Like the hassle.
and in fact, there was people from computer science who started a petition to boycott US conferences on like machine learning and stuff because they weren't getting visas because they're from Iran, and they're like,
Yeah.
then they're just completely in the dark about stuff. And
It's crazy.
That is
like
crazy.
what, like Skype in and then be caught by the CIA with Skyping.
Yeah. So it's just it's so key to have this kind of large unity between countries and stuff that it's not surprising that people, like scientists tend to be pro.
Yeah, and this is just from a research point of view. Like,
Yeah.
this doesn't even take in any sort of like societal, economical benefits of.
Well, yeah, and actually a good example is the EHT thing that was like 200 scientists, and there were 40 different nationalities between them, although they would have been from much fewer institutions.
Mhm.
But it's still just a huge amount of people to organize, and like the amount of admin that would have been. I mean, that was across continents as well. So
yeah,
if there
multiple
was-
continents, like
yeah.
North, South America, Europe, and Asia. Maybe?
Yeah, so there were plenty of visas in there, but like it could just be so much more painful if everyone was.
Yeah, it would be like it'd just be a pain in the arse. Like.
Yeah, that would be a good
I mean, that's the
platform
main-
to run in.
Yeah, I was just a run for Europe. Don't let it be a pain in the arse. I think you'd win a lot of votes.
Yeah, well,
If
that's,
you just outline to everybody how much of a pain in the arse. Imagine like all those people that go on holidays like Spain and stuff. Imagine every time you go on holidays you have to get a visa now.
yeah,
Even that alone.
yeah. I love going through the airport though, and it's like the non-EU queue at the passport control is always so much. It's shorter sometimes, but they get much
Grilled.
longer time talking.
Getting grilled by some lad at a desk. Yeah.
And then you're coming back into Dublin, and they just take your passport and they see an Irish name, and they're like, "Go on."
Yeah, crap. Yeah, or they see my name and they're like, "What is this?
Yeah,
Is this
yeah.
Irish?
Where are you from?"
Yeah, you shouldn't be in the EU queue." But yeah, anyway, so the election was on recently. There was the Euros and the local stuff. We don't talk about the local stuff.
And the
because-
Eurovision.
Eurovision was on recently. Yeah, a few weeks
We
ago.
can
there
skip
now.
that. Okay, back to
Yeah, nobody gives a shit.
yeah. I was actually in the Netherlands and they won it.
Yeah,
And then
nobody cared.
my parents were like, "Oh, there are big celebrations going on." And I was like, "Why? What happened?" And they're like, "They won the Eurovision." I was like, "I didn't know it was on. No one seems to watch it or be aware."
Yeah.
But I was with an Australian guy and he was like, "Oh, like the only people who really care about it he's seen is Australians and they fucking love it because they're like
only allowed in the last few years.
yeah, they're like, oh, we're in the EU. Let's pretend." Anyway, now look, we're talking about the Eurovision.
Oh no, yeah, we're going to.
You're saying we're going to skip the local elections because no one cares and they've no power really. Except if you got elected, well
yeah,
done.
well done, and congratulations. Good luck in your next couple of years as local councillor.
Why not consider coming on the podcast? Get in touch.
Yeah, we'll really elevate your profile, get you out there to the local population. Anyway. So yeah, in the elections in Europe, when they announced the exit polls, there was the whole green wave, and it seems to be quite subdued now that the actual counts are being done. So it does not seem to be as significant as people were saying.
Yeah.
But it was quite exciting when it happened. It was like, oh shit, there's something might be happening here. We're not just voting Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael all the time.
Center right and center
So
left.
actually, that's interesting. I was looking at a European. It was basically like a questionnaire on some policies, is like to try and align you with who agrees most with your opinions.
Oh yeah, which candidate thought I no.
Or even no. So there was a European one. I think it was like Politico.eu had a good sort of verifier of which party you align with. But it was EU wide, so you could specify per country. So if you go into like Ireland and you answer all the same questions, or you could do it like for the entire EU. And it was just interesting. Like for my results, I was kind of surprised by. But then you can put them on like the typical political spectrum of left, right, and like
Up down.
I can't remember what up down is. It's like
is it capitalism, socialism, is there or
no? I think it's like anarchism, something else. Anyway, like nearly every single Irish party is in the top left quadrant of the plot, and it's because there's parties in other EU countries that are extreme right wing and like extremely conservative.
Like have an open policy of like we don't like minorities.
Yeah, exactly. Like I can't think of any off the top of my head, but obviously there's a good few like very strong right wing parties, like the Marine Le Pen's party in France and stuff like that. Which Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael compared to those are like they're all soft left parties.
Yeah.
But within the scope of the Irish political system, they're soft right parties.
Yeah, and in America the Democrats are also right of Europe.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah, so it's crazy. Relativity.
Special relativity. Anyway, I can't remember really what my point was, but back to the green wave stuff. It was disappointing them when they actually started doing the counts, and the Greens did like way better than they usually have done in the past, like in the last 10, 15 years, or basically since like pre-financial crash time. But yeah, it's good.
It was good, and even if the Greens didn't,
and we don't have political bias here at all.
Yeah.
We don't have any affiliation with any party.
Even if they didn't take over the world, it still sent like a good message to the people like they're like, okay, we're gonna have to start doing climate changey stuff if we
Mm.
want this vote. Because I'd say it's very interesting. I'd say the Greens have a very strong like under 25 kind of demographic as well.
Oh, I'd say it's like
versus
under 30. I'd say it's like that whole under 30s
Yeah.
is probably very strong.
voters of the future. So, if nothing else, that is just going to make. Because I think I was saying this to you, like, I don't know how good like the Greens necessarily would be at doing certain policies because they've never had a majority government. where they
Actual
have to
like
say-
economical policies. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's great to say, oh, we'll have all these like socially
Renewable
good
energies.
things, but
Yeah.
but once you get into power, then you're like, well, shit, we need electricity, so we can't just stop drilling like
Yeah.
for a while tomorrow because we need it tomorrow.
No,
But
it is
it's
interesting.
like
There's a lot of like controversial ideas as well. There's like, how do you actually have the best way of doing it? Like I'd say, like nuclear energy is not something we use in Ireland at all, and I wonder though, because I guess it's a riskier source of energy, but like a way more efficient in terms of the amount of fuel you need, and the amount
Yeah.
of like waste that you have compared to like a coal plant. But it would probably be seen by a lot of Greens as being kind of risky and maybe not clean.
Yeah, it's kind of cheeky to call their party green because then they just get out like, but
Yeah, because
their policies never get.
But like also, it's not widespread. There's a lot of like different kind of nooks and crannies within like being
Yeah.
efficient and sustainable. That it's not just as simple as saying like, well, I'm green,
But a lot of people in physics would see nuclear as a very
viable option.
viable and safe. Like, 'cause
Yeah,
any
very
of the
safe.
new
For
reactors.
sure,
are
do you know how
fine.
many reactors France has? It's like 30
Yeah.
or something like that in the 30s,
Yeah.
and they've never had a nuclear accident.
Oh yeah, and like the amount of people that die in coal mines, even in like
Yeah.
developed countries from just getting bad health. But because there was also a nuclear reactor,
Just getting
in,
crushed by coal.
yeah, in Fukushima, but not the one that went
Meltdown.
meltdown, because that was like from the 70s. But there was a new one that was made like in the last decade or so, and that was fine. It didn't like all of the safety protocol worked. So
From the earthquake, like it wasn't
yeah,
affected.
and that was closer to the epicenter. But they're saying like they like new like nuclear technology like
Yeah.
is actually very safe.
Yeah, I saw something recently about like you can actually get a significant amount of energy from not even standard like fission reactors. You can just use the waste and use the like radioactive like byproducts from the waste to actually generate
Compost almost.
like
Nuclear compost.
nuclear compost, and yeah, pretty much. And you're basically just generating enough energy for like a small plant, which would probably be like adequate for Ireland.
But that's for the only genuine downside. But even like people in physics who love nuclear power, you can't really answer is that there's waste, and it's like we don't really know what to do with it. We're just going to put it in a big lead case and throw it in the sea, and that like or
bury it really
yeah,
deep.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, lots of countries are doing it though, and I guess
yeah.
but isn't that better than
Oh, I
like
agree,
pumping CO2 into the atmosphere?
And the half life is also incredibly long though. So one of the reasons they have to do this is because to become safe is like billions of years or something.
Oh, yeah, or like 1,000 years or something.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But and just if anyone is listening and wondering, the reason like people have often talked about putting in space as well.
there's lots of people listening, by the way.
Yeah. But if there's anyone wondering why don't we send it to space, just fire it out in space. You want to take this one?
Well, first of all, you can't just throw your trash out into space.
Why?
Well, how far out into space are you talking?
Well, just shoot at the sun.
Well, first of all, it's really hard to get stuff into the sun. It's not easy. You have to put something into solar orbit and then slow it down so that it deorbits into the sun. Difficult to do. Lots of energy.
No, you just go straight.
You just get
As the
slingshot.
crow flies.
As the crow flies, yeah. That doesn't work.
Like
Sean.
gravity do its work. Just put it out there and it'll actually probably eventually. But yeah, it's just strapping nuclear waste to a large rocket full of
It's a bad idea.
fuel.
What happens if it blows up in low Earth orbit? Then you've got a load of
Yeah.
nuclear waste spread around the entire globe.
And
Everybody gets cancer.
yeah, and only until the last couple.
But I mean,
of
there's
decades.
loads of nuclear, radioactive material in the Earth's crust anyway.
Yeah.
We're just taking some of it out, firing some stuff at it, making it better, then taking some energy from it,
making it greener.
bluer in
Bluer,
some
yeah,
cases.
yeah.
That damn green stereotype, and then putting it back in the ground.
Yeah,
Is it that big of an issue? I don't really. Yeah, probably is. Probably is.
That's a good point though. That nuclear like reactor material, like uranium 238 and 235, it goes 238 to 235, right?
Yeah, so one of them is naturally occurring. Is it 238?
But they're not like they don't glow green like the Simpsons. They
Oh
actually
yeah,
are
like
blue.
that's the plutonium rod in the Simpsons.
Yeah.
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're actually blue, but it's not true. Like they won't actually glow blue
It's
unless
just
they
the
have
water.
material around it. The water or material like around it that
Yeah.
glows blue from Cherenkov radiation, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's cool. They are luminous. It does.
Yeah, no, it is bright like it.
Yeah.
It's a significant amount of luminosity.
Anyway, Europe, right? So we should
got
build,
off track there.
So we should build nuclear power plants. I mean, some people
be
in
more
physics would
green.
like that. In
Yeah.
our echo chamber, that's what people want to do.
It'd actually be interesting to get somebody in physics that's really like, on the energy side of physics and
Yeah.
see if they know anything about Irish industry into
Yeah.
like
One-
where Ireland is going, because
But
I don't
think-
actually know, but-
Yeah, but one of the, if you're like really serious about removing all like fossil fuels in the next 10 years or 20 years or 50 years, like the only way to, like we don't have like the solar panels or the
although solar panels are getting more and more efficient. Like
Yeah.
if you have solar panels from this year as opposed to if you bought them like 15 years ago,
Yeah.
you're probably making like 2 or 3 times the amount of energy from them with the
Yeah.
exact same amount of sunlight. So
Yeah, but I just think I read somewhere that the quickest way is actually just build a nuclear power plant, get off like fossil fuels onto nuclear, and then worry about
Yeah.
going somewhere
Oh,
from that.
it would be the best way in terms of like getting rid of carbon emissions
Yeah.
immediately.
And we might get jobs.
How much do you know about nuclear?
Well, I haven't been talking about it all day.
We're experts, yes, we're experts. No, yeah, it's maybe being a
Yeah.
nuclear engineer, that sounds like a good job. I could do that.
There was often fear in Ireland though that
Sellafield.
yeah,
Yeah.
the IRA
Much
will
famed
blow it up.
Sellafield, yeah.
Yeah.
But like, isn't our okay? Obviously, that would be awful. It wouldn't be good in any sense of the word. But aren't there like prevailing winds from the
Yeah.
southwest?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that just like fuck over the rest of the UK rather
Yeah.
than us?
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't come towards Ireland or the north at all. It would just
We just fly through it when we're going to Europe.
we fly around it.
Yeah.
Just go south to Spain.
Yeah.
and then just get
Ryanair
off.
wouldn't. If you have to pay an extra
Yeah,
€4
right.
charge for your flight to go around the
for the extra 5,000 X-rays worth of radiation.
Yeah.
here.
um,
Anyway, that's it. I want to know your opinion, right?
Yeah.
On European integration.
Yeah.
So obviously there's lots of different faces to this, lots of different aspects to it. So in terms of taxes and economy, do you think like the EU should be able to dictate to its member states what it sets its taxes at? Because this is a huge, like obviously
Yeah.
there's no right answer here really. It all is open for debate,
But from a pragmatic point of view, I think not, just because it's that kind of shit that then fuels nationalist parties a lot, because they're like, we need
Yeah.
control of our tax. So even
Yeah.
just out of, but I mean, like I definitely think Ireland is kind of taking over the EU a little bit with its corporate tax.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody can dispute that we haven't got it
Yeah.
better. We
Yeah.
definitely do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that's a kind of a boring topic, but yeah, in terms of energy, do you think the EU should be able to say? Obviously, they've got targets for their energy production, and they say like by so and so year, like 2030, we want this amount of carbon emissions. You need to have this much renewable energies. Do you think the EU should be able to make you do that? Because at the moment they can't. They can say like, oh, we need you to get to this place, please, by this
Yeah.
time, please, or else.
So they have loads of those. They have loads of policy targets
Yeah.
on every kind of thing. And some countries are just like, nah, I'll just...
But do you think the EU should have the power to be like, you know what, we're coming in here, we're taking over your energy thing.
yeah, we're going to take your energy over.
Let's sort this shit out. Like, this is a shit show in here. Like,
I mean, it's not crazy, I don't think, in like 50 years that if one country is just like, nah, fuck it, we're just going to keep burning carbon, people will just say, well, stop, or we're going to invade you and make you stop doing it. Because
I mean, invade is very, very strong, but
well, sanction.
yeah, they could
into the
sanction
ground.
them, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Because at some point it's just irresponsible,
yeah.
especially if everybody else is
It's
making the
trying to
effort.
pull their weight. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, I
the
suppose-
US did leave the Paris Agreement.
Yeah, but that's that's holding all that back. But I mean, there's definitely a place for Europe to be a leader in climate policy and stuff, because China and the US, well,
Russia.
China's doing a bit, I suppose, but yeah,
Yeah, they're not really.
like they have bigger problems. So I mean, I think yes, let's do it.
Let's make more energy.
Yes, exactly.
But it'd be like, in that the second Spider-Man from years ago with Tobey Maguire, where they just like Doc Ock makes a sun in his like lab.
Yeah.
Why don't we just do that?
Yeah, it's possible. We should just nuclear.
I love the way it was like a really tiny sun, but looked exactly like the sun now. Even though it was only like a meter across.
Yeah, they just took
A
filmed
picture.
it and then,
Yeah, they just filmed the sun for a bit and then just scaled it down.
But we should just, why not just make nuclear fusion? That'd be handy.
Yeah, France are working really like diligently towards fusion, I think, but obviously it's still not really there.
Yeah, but it's
that would be interesting though, because like the byproduct of fusion is helium.
Yeah.
Which is just going to, if you can let it out the window and it'll just leave the planet like naturally.
So it's one of the few things that wouldn't hang around. It would actually just go into space.
It would just fuck off. Like, it would just be like, all right,
it'll actually go back into the sun and turn into probably undergo fusion.
Lithium or carbon.
So yeah, but they have a similar policy that I came across. Like the EU have a research target of what fraction of their GDP every country should spend on research.
Oh, really? They actually have a recommended amount of GDP.
So, and the idea is to spend at least 3% of your GDP on national science, like in the next, now, but as soon as you can.
What do you mean by national science? You know what that means?
So it's just like the IRC and SFI and whatever Ireland would say spend on research stuff, but not through like the ERC, not a pool,
or private.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just. But the recommended policy target is 3%, and like there's a couple of good countries that are there.
I'm just looking at a plot now.
Oh yeah,
it only looks like 5 of them are 3% or higher.
Yeah, well the average is 2.1.
It doesn't even look like that from this plot. To be honest,
Ireland
isn't listed on it.
Ireland is 1.5.
Oh, we're halfway there.
Yeah, and we're also behind the European average by a good bit, and that's not surprising because it feels that way sometimes.
The European average is about 2.1, judging by this plot.
Yep, that's it exactly. According to my notes.
According to your research?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is kind of disappointing. Like in Ireland itself, I feel like we do, Ireland has a very educated workforce and stuff. I guess it's hard to keep.
We have the highest rate of third level education in Europe.
Yeah, it's just a lot. Obviously, those people are leaving research, going into like the workforce, industrial workforce. Basically anything outside of academia. But I don't know, obviously the government could incentivize you to stay in academia. Right now it's not very incentivized. Like why are we doing it? I have no idea.
Yeah, and also it is like obviously it's good to have tertiary education. I think it's like 54%, which is the highest, but it doesn't translate perfectly well either because you can be a brilliant like builder, carpenter, like 10,000 jobs without that, and then you could also go through college, not really pay attention, get a grand degree, and then do have no job, and like then you're still registered as one of those people who got.
Yeah. No, it definitely doesn't correlate exactly, but
yeah, I suppose it's not a bad measure.
It is surprising that we have such a low percentage of our GDP goes into research, considering that. That's true. Education at tertiary level.
I guess it's probably a benefit of free education. Or third level. Yeah,
like probably a lot of people who are paying money to put yourself through doing an undergrad or a master's or a PhD. I mean, at that point, then you're like, I have to kind of keep going and doing this. But that's the other thing is that to actually do research, you kind of have to get to the PhD level. You can do research, at a master's level, obviously, and even at an undergrad level, you can contribute somewhat. But like to contribute at a significant level, you have to be a postdoc, pretty much. PhD student, postdoc, or something higher than that.
Yeah, like the stuff we did in our masters, even a research masters, it doesn't have to really contribute to the knowledge base as such. Like, even if you just reproduce a result or you try out something, a neat little idea, that's enough.
So I wonder, is it because that we don't have that many institutions, or how big are our institutions in Ireland compared to our population? I feel like in other countries like Germany and France, they just have like a load of third level centers where you can go and do research, and it's not as competitive. Whereas here we've got 6 or 7 main universities. That's not that many.
Yeah.
If you think that they all only have one department in a particular area, so they all only have one engineering department.
No, I mean there's probably like less than 50 professors of astrophysics in Ireland.
I'd say a couple less. Yeah.
Or probably 20. Yeah.
Yeah, 20 to 30.
Yeah. which is actually like such a small group of people for an island.
If you include generic physics, it probably goes up to like 200 or something like that.
Yeah, but like physics is so big. I mean,
to encompass all of physics, only have 200 people that are technically experts on that. It's kind of strange.
And then I guess that's one of the benefits of being in Europe. You can go to loads of other places if you want.
Yeah, well, I mean, the chances are that with that few top level researchers, like professor level, in the same country as you, you're going to have to.
Yeah.
There's only going to be maybe, up to 5 people who work on the exact same thing as you do.
Yeah.
That you can collaborate with. So you're going to have to go abroad.
So for anyone who's not in physics, the big problem if you said, I want to be a professor, you can do PhD, you'll probably get funding if you're decent. Then there'll be no postdocs, but there might be one in like Switzerland Switzerland would be good money though. Yeah, but you generally have to move around a lot you have to do that for a few years.
Your other option, if you're in Ireland, is to apply directly to IRC to say, I want to go and do a postdoc in Cork with somebody in Cork who works on something similar to what I do. I'll apply for IRC funding. But then, first of all, it's competitive because IRC don't give out a load of postdoc positions to people, so like it's very competitive environment to just say like, I'll just do it. You're like, chances are you're not going to get it. And if you do, it's like, well done, but chances are you're going to have to move.
But also within your CV doesn't look like, if you just were in, say you just went to Dublin 3 years doing postdocs, then Cork for another couple of years, and you're applying for a permanent position, you won't have a good enough CV. They'll give preference to someone who did 2 years in Japan, a year postdoc at Oxford, in the US,
a year in Rome, and then Boston for 2 years or something.
And if we're talking about there's 20 professorships in Ireland in astrophysics, and like both of us wanted to stay in it, and you're talking about one person retiring, then so that's like every 5 years maybe.
If even, I'd say it's every 10 to 15 years.
So then there's one position coming up, and there's probably...
And that's 15 years of PhD people who've finished and are in postdocs.
Probably like 20 a year.
And that's not including the 14 that didn't get it the 15 years before that, right?
Yeah, and none of these people are chumps either. They're all like
they're all
incredibly
they're all very smart
skilled
people. Like.
So that's why it's so hard to do science.
It's hard to stay in science. It just there's so little reward there, to be constantly looking every 2 to 3 years for a contract to do research.
Yes,
and some not guaranteed.
But at least it's fun. But here's something for you. You know what is good?
Science.
Well, in a way, science. But we touched on it earlier. So when we were saying that article was up on that shit article was up. No.
That really good article about how humans walk.
I don't want to hate on the authors who are over there.
Hit on the. That's a completely different thing.
Yeah, but so like a lot of physics and a lot of different sciences are open science, so they all have to go on archive or any other
open source website.
But the EU in its next framework of funding is bringing in a mandate that in order to get money from the EU, you'll have to put up your science will have to be open science, so like other people can read your stuff, and that's good. And so like if the EU, say when the UK leaves, if they didn't have to do that anymore, like that does close off science if they said actually we're not gonna share
we're not gonna make it open access. Yeah, that would be an issue because obviously there's like you mightn't collaborate with people, but like you work on the same stuff as people in multiple UK universities, and suddenly you can't see their research, and then you have to be in a university that pays for access to that journal because you're not going to pay for access to every article in a journal. It costs like €30.
But that's actually something that is one of the main benefits of having these large collaborations, and like it's to stop people like reinventing the wheel. And it happens a lot now in that like I've written scripts and then I'll go online and I'll see like 10 people have done the same thing. But it happened way more, I feel, in the past, because if you look at any big physics like I don't know, like formula or something, it's always called the like A-B formula, like 2 names, a double bar name,
3 or 4 or something. Yeah.
And it's because they all were doing it. They all like came across it at the same time.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the means to communicate around the world. Yeah. So now that we do, like, it's much better to just get together and
imagine writing a letter to somebody that was in the US and it only got to them like 4 weeks, or it took like 4 weeks to get a round trip letter, maybe longer, probably longer.
And they're like, "Oh, I did that last year. Here's the answer."
Yeah. Fuck. damn it. And then you're also like, oh, I also figured it out in the meantime.
yeah. Or if there is...
and then you have to wait another 4 weeks to let them
yeah,
know that.
Yeah, or if there's a discrepancy and like, I have this, and then they just like...
It's so slow.
Yeah. And such a large level of collaboration. Like, we said it's really needed for taking images of black holes and stuff, and that's cool.
Yeah, something as complex and...
But something as on the scale of climate change, it really is needed for. Like, if the EU fractured up and every country was like, no, this is like, I'm just going to do my own thing. And
it wouldn't work. I know, yeah, it's an issue.
And it's one of the reasons why the Greens probably got so many votes, because like we should.
Yeah,
all
I mean,
work
across
together.
Europe, there was also a green wave in terms of they got a lot more votes than they were expecting. I saw a tweet by Leo there after the elections, was saying, congratulations to the Green Party, like what an excellent result, blah blah blah. This will require lots of effort on an individual, community, and government level. It just annoyed me. Like, we've really gotten past, like, the 90s and early 90s were the time for blaming individuals for climate change. Like, we're past that. Governments need to make like systemic changes to how society works, and only governments can do that. You can't do that as an individual,
That really pissed me off as well. And I saw a similar thing with like Repack, that thing. They've an ad at the moment with like rugby players are on it or something, and it's like
they're recycling.
Yeah, and they're like, everyone just recycle your own thing.
Stuff.
And it's like, and it's something like the hashtag is something like, I'm gonna get this wrong, but I'll look up after. But it's like, one bottle at a time or something. It's like,
I saw.
Fuck you! Stop.
I know. Yeah,
regulate it.
I heard a radio. It might have been an ad on the radio. It could have been the same people. Yeah. And they're like, if everybody recycled one extra piece of plastic a week,
stop using straws.
Yeah,
you'll have less plastic than it takes to.
Because obviously, plastic is like a fashionable thing to be taking on now.
Yeah.
But the tough thing to be taking on is, telling people, it's going to cost us extra, but we're going to have to switch to electric cars. It's going to cost us extra, but we're going to have to switch our energy production to something else. And eventually, over time, it will return to the same price when everybody starts using it. It becomes the norm.
Yeah, and it's probably like, there was a very proficient speaker I heard who was talking about like we're just like capitalist, like neo-capitalism, like it's just obsessed with growth. Like your economy constantly has to be growing. And he's just talking about, we need to move to a place where we can just say, no, let's actually just shrink the economy on purpose in a controlled way. Because if we just did, like, say, okay, as of tomorrow, cars are illegal, obviously that would cause a recession or something.
Yeah, that would destroy everything.
Yeah, or even in Paris, when the smog is bad, they only let cars with, they let half the cars on the road. So if your car ends with a odd number, then you're not allowed on the road tomorrow or something. And then what people end up doing, like the wealthy buy two cars with opposite number plates, so they can always have one, and it ends up hurting the poor. And in Ireland, you could definitely see if they handled
that would definitely happen.
But it would also, like, if they handled the emissions wrong, it could end up hurting farmers who have really no money and are really stretched and work like loads of hours, which no one really wants either. So you'd have to give them subsidies back.
Because we've got like such a huge workforce of farmers. And, obviously, with the US, and there's their whole Green New Deal, and in the US it became a whole thing of like, oh, well, they want to get rid of our cows because cows produce methane and all this stuff. But there's lots of other sustainable ways to like help farmers, but also just make sure that they're doing it in the most sustainable way.
Yeah,
and eventually over time, if everybody moves in that direction, it becomes easier for everybody.
Yeah, but something is just paying them more for them, per cow, and then just like not letting them have too many, or
as many cows, because you pay more per cow,
or more money if you have,
or per liter milk if it's a dairy thing.
If you have trees, like instead of grassland, like something for forestry and stuff. Like there's lots that can be done, but you can't just because people think like, oh, I work hard, I'm in some office and I work 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, but like farmers, like it's such a relentless
physical labor.
And
it's also 5 a.m. you have to get up and calf some cows,
and it's 7 days a week, like every day of the year.
Yeah, it's it is. It's pretty shit. So I hope, like, if you vote in Green, it's great. Obviously, you're caring about the environment, but I do hope that they have proper, sustainable plans for agriculture.
Yeah, well, the Irish Farming Association are a share of bastards. So,
well, they're definitely like anti-green no matter what at this point. So. Yeah, but Ireland produces like something like 3 times the amount of beef it can consume.
Yeah.
And mainly it's because like we export all of that to the UK, but now with Brexit it's going to all be thrown up in like this shit show of what do we do now? Do we just produce less? They produce less, then all those farms are going to make less money. Suddenly they're not making enough money. You know, but where else are you going to put that beef? Like, we can't eat all the beef. Like, yeah, just like pay farmers to produce beef that we're not giving to anybody because nobody will buy it.
Yeah.
It's going to be unless there's a deal with the UK where they keep importing it, they would probably have an issue if they weren't importing it. So yeah, a lot of trade issues there.
But I mean, ultimately it's just trying to shift an economy into
and everybody kind of needs to move together. If everybody moves together, it works.
Yeah.
If people don't move together, if one part of society refuses to change and the other part does, it doesn't really work as well. Yeah, somebody's going to end up worse.
You're going to have a free rider problem where somebody is like, oh, if I just don't do anything and everyone else does it, then I get rich and the environment's good. Yeah. But also, we see, like, companies, if they have a really high carbon footprint, you can buy carbon like stamps or whatever. Like, you can buy land in other countries and then grow forest there, and that offsets your company's total. And stuff. It's not a bad idea. But I agree with you in that the hot topic's definitely like, but reducing straws and plastics in general is a bit of a distraction.
Get your keep cup.
I would rather it to be 10 times the amount of plastic currently if temperature was going to be below 1 degree.
Yeah, if CO2 just stopped eating up our atmosphere.
Like, that would still be a net benefit, even though like it's really shitty for the animals and stuff. Like,
because people can always stop using straws. I mean, obviously it's good if we don't use as much plastic, but it's not the main issue. The main issue is the amount of.
But making plastic is quite high in terms of
that is true.
Oil, because it's all refined.
But the other thing is with recycling, everyone's like, oh, have you recycled or whatever. Most materials can only be recycled like 2 or 3 times before they become useless.
But also the amount of stuff that ends up in a like recycling facility, like a lot of it they have to dump because they don't have the facilities.
It's not recyclable.
But they can't process it. They're getting more.
Well, that was like it was about a year ago when like China stopped buying our plastic to recycle. So then, and we didn't have the facilities to process it, so I don't know what's happening with that now.
Oh well.
Going in the sea. Tie it to puffins and seagulls and let them fly away, and then they don't come back, so it's probably fine. Yeah,
but I mean and there was that thing where like 100% of remember we said this in the B episode, but like 100% of like animals they took up from the sea had plastic in their belly.
Yeah, microplastics or whatever. Yeah.
But then 100% of shrimp they found in the canal in London had traces of cocaine in them.
Yeah.
What does that go to say?
All of the like sewerage that they tested had cocaine in it as well. Cocaine's great is the conclusion.
Yeah. We need to move away from a agriculture-based society into cocaine-based society.
Yes. I'll give you 2 bags of cocaine for that sheep.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I looked at was defence spending in the EU, because this is such a contentious topic, especially in Ireland, because we've historically been neutral.
Quote unquote neutral.
Neutral, yes. If you don't count UN peacekeeping, which I get, I would argue some people in the peacekeeping regions might include it.
Well, I mean, even that we let the US just kind of like
use Shannon and refuel. Yeah. No, there's obviously lots of different
we wouldn't let
talking points here. We probably
Russia
be able to cover all of it.
Refuel.
But we love letting the US do it.
Yeah,
for some reason. And which is ironic because Ireland's got such a pro-Palestine, like anti-Israel regime sort of sentiment going around.
Yeah, that's because we have solidarity with them in ways.
Yeah, but anyway, the EU have recently approved the first significant spending spree. I don't know, spending budget on splashing it on military defense research. So before this, it was always like individual nations. So like Germany would spend a certain amount, UK would spend a certain amount, or France. But now it's like a collective. The EU decided to spend like €4 billion in military research.
Yeah,
and obviously this is very, very controversial because if you're a country who has not been neutral in the past, I could see how it's not as big of an issue because your country's probably already doing, like, if you're from any of those countries I just mentioned, your country's already doing military research.
So the biggest in the world is the US, and then it's like the UK, Germany, and France. In Europe are the 3 big players.
Yeah,
and then like this is just some communal.
But everyone else combined isn't even as big as Germany, which is 3rd.
Yeah.
So Yeah, and like you can see why in a lot of cases, because usually it's a small country, but in the likes of Italy, it's quite a large country, but including them with everybody else like Italy, Spain, Ireland, Greece.
Portugal, and then all of the Scandinavian countries.
Yeah, we don't come up to the amount of spending that Germany has.
Yeah,
and Germany might only has about a third of what the UK spends on this.
Yeah, and then the amount of money that the EU put in, like this 4 billion, is something. It's still going to be like
it's more than the UK spends.
Yeah, but it'll still be like 1/7 of what the US spends.
Oh yes.
So like all of this ultimately pales in comparison for a sense of scale.
Well, the US have absolutely insane defense spending.
But they have to, because they have a whole economy built around it, and they have to keep buying.
Yeah, I mean, they spent the last 40 years designing their whole economy around that. I actually heard something recently. It was Joe Rogan, actually, when...
Who's that?
I don't know. Anyway, he had somebody on his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience. We're not sponsored
by
it.
Yeah.
Sponsored by you. Anyway, doesn't matter. Your man, the President Eisenhower, when he was finishing up, he warned. So it was his like last speech as president, and he warned people about the dangers of building your economy around defense, and how that encourages you to go to war, which is crazy.
Yeah,
like he knew back then, and that was what, like the early 70s or something, or I don't even know.
Yeah, because they keep buying, have to buy stuff. So actually, that was one of the main. Okay, so this thing with the EU putting in all this money, there's like a whole list of academics that have signed this up and that are petitioning against it.
Yeah.
And one of the. Oh, excuse me. One of the biggest problems with it is that there's that people have with it is that it's a lack of transparency with it, in that there is a bunch of military companies who are making the rules and like kind of designing where the money's going to go.
Yeah.
And then there's the governments, and they're doing it behind closed doors because they kind of were going to have intellectual property concerns and stuff. And like they even had a meeting where they didn't release the minutes of it, and they had to, like, the people who wanted the minutes, like journalists or whatever, had to get a freedom of information request off them to release them.
And that was the EU.
That was this, like this, the setting up how the
That's crazy.
framework.
That's actually
that was just
shocking.
the agenda of the meeting, and
Yeah.
considering the EU is based on transparency. But one of the like inherent flaws in it, and that you can never get around, is that there's only one manufacturer of weapons usually. Like there's 3 or 4 companies in the world that make weapons, and there's only one buyer, which is governments.
Yeah.
So like just because it's a one buyer, one seller kind of market, it's always going to be like not transparent.
Yeah, I mean, the issue as well is that, if you're putting that much money into research, you're researching companies. I guess they could sell that research or their product to those military companies that are producing weapons. Yeah. But then you get into the whole philosophical debate of like whether you should actually be doing that. Because if they come up with something significant, 100% that company that did the research is going to make a product out of it that they can sell to a weapons manufacturer.
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't they?
Well, so the way this is going to work is that everyone in the EU gets a memo debriefing of all the results that will be found, but the companies or whoever the institutions or wherever will still retain the IP, and then they can sell their stuff. But it is mad because at the moment, like most of the money, so they've been focused on just like well-developed technology to kind of get the program up and running.
Yeah. So like that.
So it
the
has
drone company.
They're really cool.
Yeah,
so first I was going to say just that a lot of the money hasn't actually gone to universities yet, so it hasn't really been noticed because it's gone into private companies
but
that have a very late stage product.
Yeah, but that makes sense though in a lot of sense. Like, first of all, you've got a lot of academics who are opposed to it.
Yeah.
And the reason they could be opposed to it in the first place is because most of the money in the end will go to companies who can produce something rather than research for the sake of research into military, because usually it's going to be into something engineering wise that you can build a company around a product, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to just, I guess you could have research into, stuff like radio, communications, robotics, but even that itself, you can turn that into a product and then it becomes industry, not research, academia.
Yeah, so this is supposed to match like the equivalent US thing is DARPA.
Yeah.
Where they just kind of are, it's technology, but it's kind of like a bit far-fetched technology.
Yeah, they do crazy shit. Yeah, you hear like stories.
The example that we were both talking about is actually worth mentioning. The Euro Swarm, it was called.
Yeah, cool name.
Yeah, cool name, and it was the first project to demonstrate all the key building blocks of a self-organized swarm of drones.
Yeah.
So if you think drones aren't bombing enough people in the Middle East, then don't worry.
We got Euro Swarm.
Yeah, coordinated swarms, self-organizing. I mean,
but this wasn't just like drones flying in the air, like like plane drones. It was like actual the drone you think of that you buy, and also ground drones, like cars that were drones.
Bombing in synchronicity.
Or even like they wouldn't even like say that they'd be bombing, but just as like
they reacting to each other though in a controlled way automatically as well.
Yeah, in some tactical maneuvers.
Yeah, because
nobody's involved. It's just like
because one of the benefits is they can fully a swarm could just fully patrol an area 24/7 with no interaction needed. So it's not like you have to have
breaks or anything.
Soldiers and like you're constantly giving them like caffeine or trying to make them have long shifts. You just send a swarm of drones and they will just do it permanently.
Which is terrifying.
Yeah, but this is the kind of cool shit that the EU
want.
Yeah, and then now Ireland is paying into that because Ireland pays into the EU and is paying into this fund.
Yeah.
So we will be paying for this research.
Whether you like it or not, which is kind of obviously you can elect people in Ireland that would be opposed to that, but at the end of the day we only have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 members of the EU Parliament.
Yeah.
And that's only the Parliament, which they do have some sway, but I mean a lot of the decisions ultimately come up to like the EU Commission and things like that. So it is kind of a sticky situation.
But we could take control of it at least in a sense. So 60 universities in Germany have all signed a petition saying
no.
If the money comes, like we're not going to do the research, which I suppose the Ireland universities couldn't. We don't have the resources to turn that down. Like I'd imagine if someone said, "Hey, we got 500 million quid. We want to build some drones in Cork," they're going to be like.
But this. So if an individual researcher in that institution had the say, yes.
Yeah.
But if the institution itself had a policy where they were like, no, we're not we can't, I don't care. Yeah. Now, obviously, it would be hard for the institution as a whole to turn down that much money because that's like an insane amount of money.
Yeah.
It'd be probably...
Well, even a couple of million, I suppose, which is not like astronomical amount.
But yeah, I mean, they're investing over 4 billion euros, so you could easily see how it could be, 60 million. Which it would probably put you as the most funded research group in the country immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other, like, but like there are universities in like Eastern Europe that are centered around defense research as well. So it's not like it's an unusual thing to have universities that are heavily centered on just doing this. But yeah, I know. So
the issue comes with the fact that we're a neutral country in every sense.
Well, also we're lofty academics who have notions about just science for the sake of it and nothing behind a border. Like everyone share everything and let's all be friends.
Yeah, this doesn't work for defense.
But yeah, and the only people who are funding science are like, no, how do we will that make my bomb better? Like,
yeah, but like imagine being like, oh well, fuck the bombs. We just made a death ray and it can kill whoever you want it to kill. Yeah. But it's open access.
Yeah. But in a way, it reminds me a little bit of the stuff that was like the stuff that was going around when the atomic bomb was being developed, and like the scientists are really conflicted because they were like, we're getting to the secrets of the atom, like we're learning about how atoms work,
and then two of them were dropped to Japan, and suddenly those people were like,
and it's just because the government was like, that's really interesting about the atom. Great, but how do I make it blow up?
But how many Japanese people would this kill?
Yeah. No, but the electron is a wave. You don't understand. Great. Can you put that in Japanese terms? So like it's.
Can you point me to where the button blows it up?
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of similar in that, and that's probably why there is some reluctance among scientists to not even like dip a toe in the water. Yeah, just say no. We're not gonna. Like,
no, to be honest, like I kind of agree. In a lot of aspects, the EU is good. In terms, like it's nearly better to have more integration in a lot of aspects, but in terms of defense, you're getting into kind of very murky waters here, where it's kind of hard. The EU nearly needs to, in terms of, you've got the likes of China, Russia, and the US, who are, especially the US, obviously have developed like crazy, defense spending and a huge military. and if Russia did the same, and if China did the same, and suddenly Europe is this big block of very developed countries that can't defend themselves.
Yeah.
You get it? Like, obviously, the ideal situation is that everybody de-escalates, everybody demilitarizes their country. But that's not going to happen. I mean, you could try.
Yeah.
But it's tough.
One of the biggest...
But in the meantime, you kind of have to make your army bigger so that you don't get invaded, right?
But one of the biggest opponents of an EU army was the UK, and now that they're like leaving, it'd be hilarious to just build up this massive army around them and just have
like a load of turrets around the channel there.
But even if you didn't have a problem with, like you know, say, look, we need weapons. It's a modern world. Everyone's gonna kill each other if we don't have some kind of defense.
Yeah.
Like, so the one of the criticisms, which is pretty fair, was like the defense industry will have too much control over the program. So there's 16 members on a group that were established by the commission to like set up the fund, and of the 16, 7 of the people on it were representative of the arms companies that would be the ones
really?
receiving the money.
That's
and it's
too many.
it's just that kind of
there should be like one.
yeah, but to get their voice heard. But it's
Yeah.
that kind of like lack of transparency, where it's the same people who are on the companies and on the board and in the
Yeah, that
EU,
shouldn't happen.
and that it's just in
That's
their interest.
basically like worse than lobbying.
Yeah, well, you were just allowed all the way in.
Yeah, instead of just paying somebody
Staying
to
in
do
the
it for
lobby.
you, you're just
Yeah.
saying, well, I'll just walk right in and tell you
Yeah.
what I want.
You
And
put
then
on your
just,
EU hat and you say, "Raise the money." And then you,
you take it off, put
yeah.
on your bomb hat.
Yeah, so I can understand that. Like, even just from like even if you didn't think it was unethical, but it's how it's structured is also unethical. I
Questionable.
mean, you could have a brilliant climate change thing that would be, if it was set up the same way,
yeah.
people would say that's actually not ethical.
Yeah, if you had like some sort of energy commission that was
Yeah.
like secret,
Yeah,
like, well, what are they doing in there?
yeah.
Why is it secret?
Damn big windmill companies.
Big wind.
Yeah.
Big sun.
Yeah.
Big solar. Big nuke.
Yeah, well, as well. Yeah, yeah, maybe. But that's what really grinds my gears.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I like the integration of the EU. You know, in terms of common trade, common travel, it's great.
Yeah.
It is getting into some like really debatable issues here, and obviously, it's not clean cut. You know, there's like how many hundreds of people in Parliament in the EU debating this all the time. You know, so
Yeah.
it's not an easy answer.
Yeah, one thing I think we come out in benefit for, because we have access to like the telescope I use is an EU project,
Yeah.
and I get to go to their facilities, which are brilliant, and the scientists I work with there are brilliant, and like Ireland is so focused on intellectual property, spin outs, making new drugs, and
Yeah.
just not basic research.
Yeah.
It's great that like we can be part of this basic research kind of campaign, like the ERC, the European Research Council. Their annual grants are like the main prize for people.
Any EU country that
If you're a
researcher,
scientist,
yeah.
you could get a couple million to do your research, and that
For
can
like
be on
5 years.
anything as well. That can be on such basic stuff. So like, I think we're definitely a net benefiter of how research is set up.
Integrated across the continent. Yeah, no, definitely. I wonder if, you know, you say you go to some other country like the Netherlands or Germany, and you find that there's like seems to be quite a lot of infrastructure and funding around just simple, like just basic doing the research for research sake.
Yeah.
But is that just because they do, like, they still have industry and it's just way bigger and way more funded outside of that, so that it's just like a scaling thing. So
Yeah,
here
but
we
the
have very
Netherlands
little.
isn't that much bigger than it. It's like in terms of size or population or probably even economy. I mean, it's quite small.
I don't know about their economy. What's their population? I don't actually know off the top of my head.
Well, you look that up. I just wanted to say about the Irish government have Innovation 2020 was like the plan for science, takes up to 2020, which has now been extended to 2023.
Yeah.
And they lay out what they're going to fund for the next like 6 years. And the areas that they're funding are health and well-being.
17 million people in
17?
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
Yeah, that's a good bit bigger than Ireland.
It's small though.
Yeah, it's pretty average. Small geographically.
Uh,
Anyway, what were you saying?
So there's like Ireland is focused on funding information and communication technology, so like broadband, fiber, and engineering and stuff.
Let's dig into the broadband scandal
Yeah, but health
for
and
another
well-being,
time, another episode.
food, energy, climate action, sustainability, and manufacturing materials, services, and business processes. So there's nothing there that's like
Blue sky research.
Yeah, like pure, not even like biology stuff, like getting into like, let's just find out about the genome or something like it.
Yeah, which is kind of disappointing.
Yeah,
because like neither of us are biologists, but if you saw there was like funding now for a group to decode genomes for like some random species, that'd be cool. Like,
but that even doesn't feel as blue sky as like
as what we do.
Yeah, where it's
or
very
like
much,
say like theoretical physics.
Yeah. Well, but
It's probably the bluest skies.
But even that, I mean, there's like, so at least those theories will apply.
Philosophy.
But I think astrophysics is the most stretch, because you're saying, oh, what did you do with our like 100,000 we put into your PhD? Well, there's a star that's 4 light years away, and I found it is heavier than I thought it would be based on its color, or something like that's like that's the claim. And it's not even like a theoretical physics where you say, "Oh, we figured out how this works."
Some spectra, and I found out it was bigger than we thought it was.
Yeah, but more money will be needed to prove this conclusively.
I need 3 times the amount of money you just gave me. We need to send up a satellite. Yeah, it is kind of tough, but obviously the biggest argument that comes out of that is that so many technologies fell out of the astronomy that nobody expected, like Wi-Fi and all that.
Yeah, the internet was made in CERN, Wi-Fi was made in radio astronomy, and
which is like maybe it's a coincidence, but
what has the internet have done for me?
As I upload my podcast episode.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy this episode, people, that we can upload thanks to the internet.
Yeah. Is that an ending tone?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Unless you have lots of points.
No, I don't have any points to make. I think everyone should get on with their day.
You've listened to us for way too long.
Go and do something pro Europe.
Yeah, go read a book. Read a book you haven't read ever. Get recommendations first, though.
Do you have any recommendations?
Next time. I'll have some next time.
All right. Tune in next time, everybody, for some recommendations.
Also, Instagram and all that stuff, please.
Yeah, we're on Instagram, Facebook.
Twitter. We're not on Facebook. Yeah. I hate Facebook.
Yeah.
Down with the establishment. But we love Instagram, which is owned by Facebook.
And WhatsApp.
You can get us on WhatsApp. Sean's number is 000.
Yeah.
No, Instagram and Twitter, 2 places to get us. And then obviously listen to our episodes.
Cue the music.
They're good. Boo, 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 boo.